Tim Sara spent 16 years at one of Australia's most respected strata management companies. He rose from trainee to group licensee in charge, overseeing not just Strata Choice, but 2 additional brands they acquired along the way. He was recognised with an industry award of excellence, and then, 3 months ago, he walked away to build something that challenges everything the industry has accepted as normal. His thesis is simple but confronting. The strata industry doesn't have a service problem. It has a staffing problem dressed up as a service problem. In this conversation, Tim broke down exactly what that means, why AI is about to fundamentally change what a strata manager actually does, why insurance commissions have allowed the industry to avoid honest pricing conversations for over a decade, and why he believes one expert with the right system can outperform a team of 10 with the wrong system. He also said something I wasn't expecting, that this framework that he's using for surviving this industry comes from Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, that every morning he reminds himself that he will meet difficult, ungrateful, challenging people, and that accepting that this is a truth that may happen is what sets him free. This is a conversation about the future of strata and what it takes building something inside the industry. Help me welcome Tim Sara to the Strata Room. Tim Sara, welcome to the Strata Room.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome, dude. You're the first guest that's come on board that I haven't actually met.
Yeah, well, it's I guess the world we live in these days is you do things by email and video conference and all of that. So we'll have to catch up.
Yeah. We might have crossed paths via email, but I've been in the industry a while. You've been in the industry for 16 years.
Yeah.
Mate, you have a lot to say. I've got you. I invited you here, Tim, because I've noticed you. I find you interesting for 2 reasons. One, you're very knowledgeable. I'm impressed with the knowledge that you have. But the thing that got my attention is you have an interesting thesis, which we'll get into today. And so I've wanted you to come on board to really talk about this thesis. I think it's very interesting. I find people interesting. I find new ideas interesting. I guess that's why you've become an entrepreneur. It's great. It's rewarding because you get to test that thesis out in the market, and we need people like you. We need people coming out and going, you know what? There's a different way of doing things, and I'm going to go out and I'm going to show you. And this is passion. This is inspiring. This is what I love about people. So well done.
Thank you. That's very, very kind of you to say.
Yeah, no worries. All right. So I want to just have people understand, and myself really understand the sort of genesis of you coming into the industry. You've been doing it since, I believe you've come out of school doing strata management. What were you thinking? what was the thing that you go, yeah, this is me? Did you fall into it? Did you have a friend? It was just an opportunity that came up, and I just want to learn a little bit about. Take me back to those days.
Well, funnily enough, I was introduced to the industry by my father, who was a building manager. He's now retired, but he was a building manager at a company. And I'd just finished school. I was 17 at the time. I was one of those people that didn't turn 18 until after schoolies. And I'd just finished school. I had no idea what strata management was. In fact, I'd worked for that company for about a week before I actually realized what I was doing. And, I'd left school, I'd enrolled in university. The plan was to take a gap year, save up money, travel Europe, the typical thing to do. Yeah, that was the plan. And I'd had a job since I was 10. So, leaving school meant that I could finally work full time. The goal was to save as hard as I could. And it wasn't necessarily a career at that point. It was just a full-time job. But in the second half of that year, it really clicked for me that there was a real pathway, that there was a career ahead of me. I'd been promoted, people around me were earning good money. And so I simply asked myself, why go and do a sports science degree just because I like the gym when I can build a real career, right now and actually get paid to learn it as I went? Because at the end of the day, most people don't know when they're 18 what their future lays, what
Mm.
the future has for them. And so most people just go to university to get a qualification so they can get a career. And I already had the career, so I just kept going with it. My friends spent 3 to 6 years at university. They came out with theoretical knowledge and a debt, and I came out, of those same years with practice and a head start. So for me personally, in hindsight, it was the smartest call that I ever made.
Yeah, dude. Some of those things sort of resonate with me. I was a bit of a gym junkie. I was into construction, and almost jumped out as a hydraulic plumber, and almost jumped out because I wanted to get into sports science. Everyone said, "Why would you do that? It's just like there's no money in it." It's just like, oh my god. I
Yeah.
love that you that I mean, most people do take that path of having debt for a few years, in last maybe even 10 years, and you've found an industry that you like. What actually hooked you? What is the hook that you, other than you obviously had dad in the industry, and you might have had some success in those early years. What hooked you?
When I was very young, I learned early on that if you wanted good things in life, you had to work for them. So I remember when I was, I think, about 11 years old, and I bought my first gaming console. Because my parents said, "Well, if you want that, you've got to save up for it." I said, "Well, how do I do that?" "Well, you got to get a job." So, I did that. I bought my first car when I was 16, and it was because I'd worked hard and I'd earned them. So, for me, work ethic was something that fortunately my parents instilled into me in a very young age. And I always knew that Strata was tough. I was sitting in an office surrounded by people who were, stressed, who were anxious. So I didn't sort of go into it thinking that it, uh, you know, wasn't going to be difficult. In fact, very early on, I was told by Jim McDonald. I remember early on when I first became a Strata manager, he said, "You've just started a 5 year apprenticeship. You're going to suck at this for the first 5 years, and then you're going to start to feel like you have a sense of what you're doing." And only then, did I sort of, after the first 5 years, did I actually start to feel that way about myself. But even to this day, the thing I love about the profession is that even after that 5 years, you are still constantly learning and evolving. And just when you thought you knew everything, you are humbled. And
Mm.
so it was really the best thing that anyone ever said to me about
Well, that's
that. And
sound. Mm.
yeah, and I had the same mentality when I went into leadership. So I went from being a strata manager to leading strata managers. And I remember telling myself at that point, okay, you're about to, start your 5 year apprenticeship all over again, and this is going to suck, and you're going to make a lot of mistakes, and eventually you'll feel like you know what you're doing. And it was the same thing. So, um, yeah,
I
I think all of that sort of kept me in
already
there.
I've picked up something about you. So because I don't know you, I'm learning about you, and I can tell already you're a systems thinking person. You see things and you go, "This is another one of those things," and already the next thing that you did, that you learned on that first one, the next thing you did, still in the industry, but it's a new thing. Oh, it's going to take another 5 years that you're going to suck at this, and I can tell that is what a successful mind looks and feels like. So I love that you've picked that up. Just something seems simple. You might not see that, but I see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that's what I love about this industry is you are constantly growing and evolving all the time, and that'll never end, in my opinion.
Hmm. Look, you were with Strata Choice for a very long time. Obviously, you got some success in there. Talk to me about the successes as a senior manager there. It's a
Yeah,
good company. It's been around for a long time, and really love to learn inside that sort of role, as becoming having a senior role in that at Strata Choice?
Yeah, I mean, I got really lucky there that I happened to start out at a great company. And, when I was there, we celebrated the 40-year anniversary. Maria Linda started it, uh, I think it's now 43 years ago. And her two sons, Dan and Jeff, led that business to its success now. And, um, it was fortunate that I was with a great company from the start, and that's why I was able to stay there for 16 years and grow with the business. And the business did grow, and it eventually acquired other brands. So I was able to grow inside of the business. I am forever grateful for the opportunities that I had there, and was able to rise through the ranks all the way from starting out as a risk services manager, writing procedures on how to coordinate a fire safety statement, all the way through to eventually becoming the group licensee in charge across not just Strata Choice, but the other two strata management businesses that they'd acquired as well. So I was very proud of that achievement, but also to be able to talk to potential candidates that we were interviewing to join the company. And one of the things that we did was talk about the career progression pathways. And that was something I was always able to speak to was, look, depending on how hard you want to work, you can go, all the way to the top of the organization here if you are committed to doing that. So, that was a great opportunity for me.
Well, Tim, that's a great journey, and it shows the commitment to you, the loyalty, obviously the environment you were in. It says a lot about the company, about you.
Yep.
Not many people can say that. They've been in the company for so long, and so hats off to them, providing that environment that helped you thrive. But also hats off to you to stay committed in that role, and helping them with that growth, right? And putting your hand up to do these challenging roles. Yeah, we get a little bit rewarded for it, but you're not doing it for the reward. You're actually doing it because you're stepping up to the challenge. It's something that it says, again, a lot about you and your commitment to the industry. Now,
Thank you.
I also know that you've been recognized as a man of excellence in your industry. I know that you got an award because of the way you work, so I want to congratulate you on that. I think it says a lot about ethics, standards, how you operate. So congratulations. And I know you probably wouldn't want to mention that, but that's what you call a humble leader that doesn't really talk about their wins. But I want to recognize that. So well done. But I do want to ask, there was a point where the roads, you're winning. And then there's a crossroad, and there's just like, oh, if I go down this one, it means I've got to leave this one. I want to learn about how you came to that crossroad, and what was it that sort of pushed you and thrust you into this new opportunity with your business, your own opportunity to grow your own business and the way you want to operate.
Yeah, I suppose, I mean, there's a number of factors that go into a decision like that. I had to ask myself, are you going to stay here forever? Again, I'd started out of high school, uh, and, was I going to work there until retirement? No. I'd worked 16 years in the one place. I'm probably the only millennial that's got long service leave. And I started to wonder, and I didn't necessarily want to leave and go and work at another business. I had my own ideas around the strata management model, and ways that I thought would better serve our clients. And so I decided to start my own business. I wanted something that I could have ownership of. When you're working for somebody else, you're not going to own the business at the end of the day. And so this way I could make, whatever decisions I wanted, and I could lead the business in whatever way I wanted to. So that was a big decision for me. And I'm very grateful that I've got a very loving and supportive wife who's supported me through that. And yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done. It's been now just over 3 months into it, and I'm loving every day.
Behind every great man is a great woman, they say.
That's right. That's right.
Look, I, I just want to comment on something. Uh, you you structure your sentences really well. I feel like you're a deep thinker. Again, I don't know you, but I can just tell by just very short interaction with you that very thoughtful words and the way you construct words. And is that something that you've always had, or is that something that you built on? Is that a skill set that you sort of trained over time?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I have been a deep thinker most of my life, sometimes to my own detriment.
Yeah,
At times, that sort of deep thinking can also create anxiety, and
the
that's
worst
not
case
something.
scenario.
Yeah, well, that's right. In fact, that was something that I had to deal with in my younger days. Was the anxiety, and it was the overthinking. But I was very fortunate to work with a brilliant coach, business coach named Chris Dion, who's the managing director of Stellar Consulting. And I worked with Chris for a number of years. And one of the things that I did learn about myself was that I was a deep thinker. But Chris helped me to, uh, I guess, become a bit more balanced. So in his mind, there were essentially three types of communication or expression. There's think, feel, and know. Which think is the deep thinkers. Know is the people that speak from their gut,
Mm,
and then there's feel, the people that are more sort of emotionally communicating. And so he helped me to. I was early on. I was a very deep thinker, and he helped me to start to balance a little bit more with the other communication styles. And I'm always grateful for Chris and
yeah.
for the work that I was able to do with him. Yeah.
Tim, at another conversation, I'd love to double click on that. It's my interest, just psychology, philosophy. I'd love to have a conversation at another time and to really go down on that, because it really helps us operate in the world, right? How do
Yeah.
we connect with others? How do we connect with ourselves? It's all relationships, still down in the relationships. And if we can help use certain mental models and methodologies to sort of notice where we can improve and where we're sort of top heavy, and we get to have better success in the world. We have
Mm.
better outcomes in the world. So, and that sometimes is just a perspective shift, not even a thing that happens, interestingly, isn't it?
It's so crucial in yours and my line of work as well. I mean, we're dealing with people all the
Mm.
time. And I was told early on, we don't manage buildings, we manage people, or communities of people, I should say. And so, you'd know this firsthand, that it's crucial that you have those communication
Mm.
skills with your residents, owners, all of the stakeholders involved in a strata community.
You have a thesis. You've gone out and to start your new business, and congratulations on that. How long's it been? Is it 4 or 5 months?
Yeah, it was mid-March.
Mid-March. Yeah,
Yeah,
congratulations, mate.
thank you.
I'm super excited. I think your phase now is the most exciting phase. It's like let's take on the world. Let's change the world. Let's really get ourselves out there. And part of that, you have a thesis, which I mean, I would imagine a lot of people would push back on.
Mm.
And this is what attracted me to you, is the industry has a staffing problem dressed up as a service problem. And I read that quote because that's what you said. And it's a strong statement. Just unpack that for me.
Mm. Well, I started to see this a few years ago, and for context, I've always been a bit IT savvy. And so I noticed that we would often throw a human at a problem that a system could handle. So people clicking buttons, entering data, chasing tasks. Um, so for years, we solved strata problems by hiring more people to click more buttons. The problem was never a shortage of people, it was the absence of systems. So, in my view, the root cause is that a lot of strata managers know the legislation, um, but they're not necessarily um, sort of technical in the IT side of things per se. And so a lot of them couldn't see the automations that were possible that were sitting right in front of us. And then conversely, a lot of the tech providers in Strata often have the reverse problem. They're really great at software, but not necessarily as in-depth in terms of how Strata actually works. And so, for example, a lot of the tools that I see tend to push everything onto the committee to approve certain things. And in my experience, what I've found is that committee members don't necessarily want to decide on every single thing. In my experience, most people join a strata committee because they feel like things are not being handled well and they want to see things done better. And perhaps that's the early reasons why they get on. And then AI came along and it just changed the entire landscape overnight. We had automation previously that follows a very fixed chain of steps, but now we have agentic systems that step back, look at the whole picture, and can work through it. And that is a different category entirely. So I was born in 1992. I watched the internet go from dial-up to reshaping the entire world. And I look at AI and I think, this is bigger than that. And this time, I'm actually in the workforce for it. So
You gave me goosebumps. You gave me goosebumps because
yeah,
I couldn't agree more. I literally have full body goosebumps. I agree. It is going to shift magnificent ways. I'm excited. Of course, there's going to be the downside, but I'm excited. So I don't want to stop your train of thought. Keep going. I'm loving this.
Yeah, no, I sat with this for a while. My wife pushed me over the line. She actually runs an AI consultancy. She helps businesses implement AI. And so she really got me into it. And what I say to people is that I know there's some fear and trepidation around it. I know that there are some people that are resistant towards it. But I would say to them, you don't necessarily have to learn AI and how it works and how to use it. Just like back in the day, people didn't have to learn how to use computers. But we all know how that worked out for the people that didn't. A lot of times they got left behind. There were people that embraced it, that accepted that it was going to be part of the new normal, and who are now using it to their advantage to outpace the people around them. And so it's a choice. You either, embrace it and move with it, or you resist it and watch everybody else move past you.
Yeah, it's definitely a Kodak moment.
Mm.
If you're not moving with the times, you're going to end up just someone that refuses to take on the latest technology. It's not that it's if they're in business practices that are looking for sustainability, for efficiencies, you can't deny technology. To deny technology is to say, I'm not going with efficient, effective operations, systematic things that actually reduce cost and mistakes. Why this is the thing. So there's fear around it, and I love that you've touched on this. There is, I've talked about it in other podcasts, is that people are fearful because it may make them obsolete, and that's a real fear.
Yeah.
But I was trained the way I was trained in the workforce is you should be trying to make your role obsolete, and you're like, what do you mean? How else are you going to get a promotion? How else, if you don't make yourself obsolete, how else are you going to be able to shift and move into the next role? You'll be stuck on that role forever. Making yourself obsolete is actually a thing that not the the work that you're doing still is important. Is that you're getting systems and frameworks and processes that don't need you. It's delegated off to either a cheaper labor or technology through automation and if this then that, if using AI. We've had it for a while, but AI has really changed that landscape. Tell me, Tim, because I if you don't mind, I really want to double click on this. I think it's very important. I haven't double clicked on any of my guests, and you're the right one. I'm excited about AI.
Mm.
I don't talk about it often enough. I'm only just turning it on as an organizational um, rollout. It was a piecemeal, person by person. I was involved, the senior team were involved, but now I've just switched on the organizational AI where it's just actually a proper rollout with standards and systems it's great. I'm so excited. We're doing it slowly, but we're doing it. We're an agile company.
Mm.
But I think for strata management, it's ludicrous what you could do, because I've been thinking about it myself, and I'd love for you. I want you to maybe use this. If we can shift this into, there's an end user here. There is an owner listening to this that would love to learn more about what you're talking about here. Can we just double click a little bit more on what do you mean by this? What does it mean to bring AI, to have automation, to have systems, and having the AI doing it in the background? What does it mean for the end user?
Mm. Strata management can be very admin heavy. So there are a lot of I call them the back office functions that we perform for our clients on a day-to-day basis that are purely administrative, whether that's inputting data or issuing templates. There's a lot of admin that goes on behind the scenes, and it's part of the reason that we're not deeply understood by our clients at times is because we haven't yet communicated just the sheer volume that happens in the back office. Now, at the moment, historically, what the industry and what a lot of industries have done is they've solved that problem by offshoring, for example, where you get cheaper labor overseas to do the same job but for less, and that was great for a while. But now we have these systems that can perform those tasks 24/7. If you train them once, they are generally consistent. You don't have to retrain them when people leave. You don't have to deal with the sort of human side of things as much. And so what that does is it frees up a strata manager to then focus on the things that we've always wanted to focus on. We've wanted for so long to be more proactive, to be able to sit down with our clients and have deeper conversations about their communities. Historically, we haven't been able to do that because we've been so deeply bogged down in just the admin and the day-to-day of it. Most strata managers will talk about receiving anywhere up to like 100 emails in any given day. And so a lot of those are admin related. A lot of those are people just wanting updates on the status of a particular issue that affects them. Well, AI is great at, for example, going and fetching from a database the status of that very issue and then responding to that person saying, here's the information that you need. And there are a lot of basic sort of workflows that can be done as well, whether that's handling pet applications. AI is great at reading a set of bylaws, understanding what's necessary for a building, and then communicating that to the person who's applying for a pet. And all of that can happen while I'm out at a meeting with a client talking to them about the multi-million-dollar remedial works project that goes on. So it means that strata managers can now start to rely on the basics happening. Owners and committee members and residents can rely on the basics happening so that strata managers can really step into that trusted advisor role where we're not just talking about, have the levies gone out? We're talking about, what should they be set at? And that's, I could talk at length about the applications of what AI could do, but that's the general thesis of it, is that the basics are now getting handled so that I can provide true value for my clients.
Mate, that is so good. So we, strata managers get paid a lot of money. Or we have strata managers that get paid a lot of money. We have strata companies that obviously have a charge out rate. And what we're saying is, before we had delegated some of those tasks to an offshore company, but now today we can actually say, hey, guess what? this site has already a set of bylaws. This site already has a set of templates and forms. And now we can actually spend a bit of time. So you invest heavy at the top, the front end,
Mhm.
and say, we're setting this site up because we have the first principles of the site. And so we can start automating a lot of the information that comes in. A lot of it, you said 100 emails that come in. I would say there's 100 emails that went out. And I
Yep.
actually believe they are stuck in emails, probably too
Mm.
much so, and sometimes even phone calls, answering
Yep.
exactly that. Where are we at with this? Where are we at with that? When
Mm.
if you can design a box for that site and say, hey, when that comes in from this site, this is a strata plan number. These are the bylaws. And by the way, the activity on those sites are held here, and it can find that information. And I love that you're showing it. It's actually not that hard to understand why AI is so attractive.
Mm.
Do you think this model here, this is the key question, this is what gets me excited, is that I see a future for my business that I get to charge my customer less. Not that I'm not earning less profit. Let's be
Mm.
clear here, because the profit margins need to be there to pay for my cost of sales and the operating side, and to be sustainable, I need to be able to earn a living, and so all my staff. But I can actually turn the volume down on the price because I actually don't. The automation is helping with bringing it down 10%. Not,
Mm.
10% in the next 2-3 years, maybe another 10% in the next 6 years. Like all of a sudden, we've got, instead of $100,000 a year, it's $80,000 a year.
Mhm.
Why not? Why not welcome that? Especially with wages going up and the cost of living going up, it really helps with the levies, right? What are your thoughts on that?
For me, what it's meant is that I can run a business at a far lesser cost. So my running costs are lower. For example, I've just recently created a basic workflow where every Friday it pulls the data on the suppliers, tradespeople and all of that from the system, sends it to the company that I use to check their licenses and insurances, and sends them a spreadsheet so that they can do that. Now, that used to be a person sitting there for maybe 15 to 30 minutes a week, manually downloading that information and sending it across, and that would usually be an offshore person. I've now automated that. It happens at midnight every
Wow.
Friday, like that. So I don't have to pay a person to do that. And when you start to extrapolate that across the hundreds of tasks that go on in any given week, it means that I've got an AI agent performing those tasks for a couple of cents, as opposed to a person who might have been a few $1,000s. So the reason I say that is because what it's allowed me to do is to reduce my running costs as a business, which means that I don't have to follow the traditional model of strata management, where I'll explain that a little bit. So at the moment, you've got strata management businesses that have to set their fees very low. Well, they don't have to, but they choose to. And as a result, there's not enough income per client. And so, therefore, the solution to that is to just manage more clients. You've got strata managers managing anywhere from 50 to 100 strata schemes, and nobody can deliver quality at that volume. I've done it before. It's very hard. You have to either do 12-hour days, 7 days a week, or just accept that things aren't going to be as great as they could be. Now, in my opinion, that doesn't necessarily work in today's standard. 15 years ago, it worked. There was less admin, there was less compliance. People were happy to wait. That doesn't cut the mustard these days. So how that gap has been covered is just by hiring more staff, which shrinks the very margin that you were trying to protect. You offshore it, cheaper sort of works, but there can be language and culture gaps and things like that. We've never really fixed the fact that one person can't properly run 80 buildings. We've kind of just hidden it behind more staff, offshoring and insurance commissions as well, which is another topic. And so, insurance commissions, for example, have been about 15 to 20% of most firms' revenue. Insurance always goes up, so commissions have always gone up. Prices, therefore, haven't had to. Macquarie Bank tells us that strata managers haven't put up their pricing in over 10 years. And so that's sort of allowed us to dodge the hard conversations around good service and what it actually costs. Now, when you unwind that, the chickens are starting to come home to roost, and now we're having to explain ourselves and our pricing honestly. So I think to summarize that, it means that if I can run a business at less of a cost, I don't have to manage 50 buildings anymore. I can now provide a high quality service for 10 to 30 buildings. I can do it really well. I can charge a good fee for that. And I have clients that are more than happy to pay for that because they are getting the service and the quality that they always wanted. And that's been the case for the clients that I've taken on board so far, is they've been burnt by the historical model. And, you know, they were paying a low price. I've managed to convince them that paying a little bit more gets you a lot more. And they're now seeing the benefits of that. And your happy clients don't necessarily look at price so much because they're just, you know, happy that they're getting what they need. And they could go back to the Temu strata management, as I call it, the cheap and cheerful. That's fine. Everyone's bought, crap off Temu before, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. And that's not a slight on strata managers, the businesses that charge less. But at the end of the day, if you charge less, it just means you have to fill that with more volume. And volume's not working anymore for the owners.
Tim, I want to respond by saying thank you. And let me tell you why. Thank you for taking the gloves off and actually telling how it is. It is exactly how you've explained it. And that's how the model's been going for a long time. And like what you said, it's a dying model. It ain't going to work. And it's the reason why one of the questions was what I want to talk about is this, the burnout side. And this is a real problem, and people are leaving the industry as a result. And this is another solution to that, right? So you're not only saying, hey, we've got this model that works, and it's less mistakes, less stress. We know the principles, and we get this information to you. It's actually reducing the burnout and raising the quality of service that they're getting. So thank you for talking about this stuff. That's real. It's actually 90% of the industry. I'll be surprised if it's less. Prove me wrong. What you've just said there is exactly what needs to be said. And thank you for getting out and starting a business that says they're going to actually do what they say they're going to do, which is a new thesis, a new way of doing things. We need fresh eyes, fresh ideas in the industry, Tim. And thank you for getting out there. It reminds me of when I started my building management, journey, and I just said I need to do things differently, and I love this. So well done for coming out and creating this new model. Now, I wanted to ask, with these new ideas, with these new models, I just think about myself is, how do I get this out there? What keeps you up at night? Saying to yourself, why aren't people hearing me? Why, I guess with any thesis, is it an education process? How do you deal with that? What is keeping you up at night about this model maybe not working or not actually being understood?
Well, what's keeping me up at night at the moment is my 6-month-old son, who's having a little bit of trouble sleeping.
Fair enough. I know that one as well.
Honestly, it's I guess, obviously the model's success kind of leans on me. One expert can be a point of failure, and that relies on my health and my judgment and my capacity. That's why I build systems to support me with that, so that things don't rest on me grinding myself into the ground. And obviously there's a deeper risk, which is, scaling the philosophy without having to dilute it. And I mean, not to take on, cheap clients, for example. That can be hard for a startup, but, you have to persevere with it. I think, if this only works for me and I've built a job and not built a model, then I think maybe I've failed there. The whole point is to prove that other strata managers can do it too. And I know that when I say that, we should increase prices, the pushback I get from strata managers is, everyone prices low and I can't win business charging more. And to me, that's the trap talking. I've proven to myself that that isn't necessarily true. If you follow Stoic philosophy, there's a philosopher named Epictetus who opens one of his handbooks with a statement, some things are in our power and other things are not. And so the pricing of the market isn't in my power. Whether a given committee values quality isn't necessarily in my power. What is in my power is my standards, my pricing integrity, and who I say yes to. So I stopped agonizing over the clients that I lost on price and just put everything into serving the ones who get it. And I want to be clear about that this isn't me saying everyone must run my model. There's a market for everything. Some schemes self-manage, some can't afford or don't need premium strata management, and that's fine. The point is choose your model deliberately and be honest with the clients about what it delivers. Um, and I think, my discipline around this is that, I worry only on what I can act on. And as far as I can, name the risk out loud and prepare for it, and then try to let the rest go, because, naming it is how you take that power away.
Yeah. I want to push back a little bit here, and this is how I want to do that. I actually don't think. I actually think you're ahead of the curve. I don't think this is a model that isn't for everyone. I actually think it's a model for everybody. It's just that you're ahead of the curve. That's my actually claim to AI and what you're doing here. This model has to be integrated in all businesses. You're doing it right from the start, and you get a fresh start. You get to build your business with this new technology and a new way of doing things. So I know you said there's certain customers that don't like it, but I'm actually saying no. Everyone needs to adopt this new way of efficiency. I will stand up and say that it's like what you said before with computers. Any new technology is scary. Even books, when it came out, was people are going to go blind reading books when the print press came out. It's just like, what? And so we it's normal. We have the fear response. We have, old people that are older than me, because I'm pretty old myself, that go, this is crazy. And that's it. That's, again, we become models as we get older, and we if we don't evolve, we become obsolete. So I think there's a great evolution here. Yes, we have to solve the global warming problem. Yes, we have to solve the usage of water and the tokens that are getting used. And I think there's another a conversation to have around how the economics can work around using AI and tokens. And we can go deep on that, another thing. But I think what you're saying about this model needs to be integrated in all businesses. So if you're an old business, you should be listening to Tim and saying, this guy's onto something. Bring him in as a consultant. I mean that, Tim. I don't know you. I actually don't know you. I'm learning about you, and I'm excited about what you're saying here, because I actually believe this is a technology that's not going anywhere. It's going to be in your fridge. It's going to be in your car. It's literally going to be everywhere. And it's your 6-month-old baby won't know any different. It'll be raised in an era of not just having an iPhone that's on your finger, probably, but a literal AI that will help with all areas of your life, including systems and process, things that you order every week, things that you do every week, that doesn't need a human being, where they can make mistakes and get caught up in the emotion side. I think one thing we haven't talked about is that's a little thing I'd like to talk about. What are your thoughts with removing the emotional element to emails? Because I think, to me at the moment, I sit on, it's a benefit that we can write emails, especially ones that have a bit of friction or have a lot of opinions, right? We have a lot of opinions. I think AI does a really good job in harmonizing emails, that I remove a lot of the the current emotion that someone might be going through, the heat, the body's in heat. It's like, how dare you say that? But if you write it through AI, it starts to remove and really help with successful outcomes. Can you talk about that? Have you thought about that at all?
Well, I like to engross myself as much as I can in Stoic philosophy, and Stoic philosophy is not how to remove emotion from one's life. It's how to not be swept away by it. And I think any professional, whether you're in our line of work or a different line of work, has to always be able to communicate without allowing their emotions to blind them. And we have to remember that we're not always dealing with professionals. I mean, the stakeholders in a strata scheme are residents, they're owners, they're a whole range of people that come from different walks of life. And so, as a strata manager, it would be very unwise to expect people not to, write with emotion, but we cannot respond with it. And AI can be very helpful at that. Certainly, there have been times where I've written something and I've asked AI to review it, and it's actually helped me to perhaps balance things a little bit more to maybe where I didn't see it, where I might have communicated in some sort of emotional way that I might not have thought that, but having a second opinion, it's like having a companion that can sort of quickly check your work and say, well, here's another way of approaching that. And that's what I love about it, is that it can help you to extract the tension out of it. We do rely heavily on emails as a society, and that's not ideal in a lot of respects because it's not the best form of communication. In fact, it's probably one of the worst. But
Interesting.
it is there, and so we have to be able to use it sometimes to our advantage, and other times just because. So that's where I find it very helpful that we can start to, because I mean, strata and community management can be very emotional. We all know this, and this is, we're dealing with people's homes and their communities and their neighbors and their differences of opinions. So we shouldn't expect it to be anything else. But we can certainly you focus on the issue, not the emotion behind the issue, and to respond to that instead.
Have I heard you say, I could be mistaken here, but have I heard you say we can treat strata management like a business, or an owner's corporation like a business? Have I heard you say that?
Yeah, that's.
Talk about that for me.
Yeah, I talk about that a little bit on my website, and I've spoken about that in the past. And what I mean by that is not to, not to remove the sort of community elements of strata management, because that's my view. Is I call them communities because that's what they are. I don't call them buildings. They are small groups of people who have different opinions, who get together and make decisions about the building and all the other things there. And where I think that strata schemes can be like a business, if you think about businesses, for example, have a culture, so a company culture, and that can dictate how people show up every day. And so, some businesses, for example, people are very proud of where they work. They take care of the office environment, no different to in a strata community where you've got residents that sometimes care about where they live, and they're very vigilant about things, and they want to make sure the rules are followed and make sure that things are being maintained to a certain standard. And then you have other communities where people just don't really care about that. So that's where strata and business have a culture. And something else that I talk about is where you've got a strata committee. And in my opinion, committee members are sort of like the board of directors in a company, in the sense that what they should be able to do is to rely on a strata manager like myself to act as kind of a CEO of the company. So the strata manager, runs the day-to-day operations of the place and the community. The board isn't necessarily having to do that anymore. Board of directors typically work on the business, not in the business. obviously it's a little bit different in Strata because they're owners as well. But what I want for my committee members is to be able to focus more on the strategic direction of the Strata community that we're involved in. So I'll handle the execution day to day, and to do that, I need a certain level of authority. I don't need to be micromanaged in that process, and the committees that operate like that, they're not for me. But if they're willing to act like a board and set the strategic direction and think a bit more globally about, well, what is the culture of our community? How can we encourage residents to be proud of living here or in commercial strata schemes, working here? What's the sort of future of this building? Where do we want our community to be in 5 years' time, that sort of thing. So for me, that's where the committee acts kind of like a board of directors, or should be acting like a board of directors, not having to, go around chasing up quotes or do things like that. That's really what a strata manager or a CEO of a business does.
That's so good, Tim. I love that.
Yeah.
And half the luck of the Strata committee to have someone like yourself to really be able to talk about how they want to look in 5 years' time as a community. This is, proactive management, right? This is getting rid of the small stuff, getting rid of the execution, ensuring they have complete information for those decisions when they need to make it. Having them spend time on clearing their vision, right? You mean we have a vision? Like we get to talk about it? I mean, how good is that? So congratulations on,
Awesome.
really getting out there and trying to make this happen. And obviously with the current customers that you have, with every, not every building, I would say, a lot of the large structures that they have a building manager on site. How do you see yourself working with a building management company or the building manager on site, especially with automation and getting on board with, because I can imagine there'll be building management companies that not with AI, and they're very reactive, not proactive, and they're not really understanding where you're coming from.
I mean, the range of building management and facilities management businesses is enormous. You've got highly professional facilities management teams who have studied Strata, for example, and then you've got sort of the other end of the spectrum where they don't know it as much. Yeah, and I think what really great building and facilities managers can get right is to carry the same message that we do as strata managers. So to understand the processes around things like renovations or approvals or how the bylaws work well enough to explain the why to residents and not just enforce the what. So what I mean by that is, yes, you've got a bylaw that governs, how visitor parking might be used, but a great building or facilities manager can explain, well, this is why we have it and why we have it in this specific way, and perhaps what people can do to, express their views and change things if they want. And I think what some on the sort of lower end of the spectrum get wrong is sometimes using, the strata manager as a sort of a shield or a punching bag. That's the strata manager's fault.
The whipping
And
tool.
then, yeah, and it creates a sort of a poisonous relationship, right? And you don't want that.
No.
And rather than, and I get where that comes from sometimes as well, because some of these rules and the red tape that's involved in strata can just seem utterly ridiculous. And sometimes it feels like, being the ones that are communicating it, that we're the ones sort of making it up. Whereas if we can work cohesively on that, I love working with building managers that, I speak to regularly that will say, well, why is that? And I'm more than happy to explain that. 9 times out of 10, there's good reason for things. And once a great building or facilities manager understands it, we can stand alongside each other and we can explain the same thing to our clients, and work cohesively. I mean, we're in an office. We're one step removed from the residents. Building and facilities managers are on the ground. They're face to face with residents every day. So if we're singing the same tune and the residents get one clear answer instead of, a building or a strata manager blaming each other, in my opinion, that's the fastest way to ruin a building, is to, blame each other in public. And that sort of thing just is not good for anybody.
Tim, you're just saying all the right things. You could definitely be my wingman anytime, any building that we look after. Dan, you are a solid dude. Like, you're just saying all the right things: cohesiveness, harmonizing, working together, finding out the why. I've leaned on strata managers to work out some things that I don't understand, because some things I actually don't, and the good ones do understand, like what you said. And they explain why. And I've seen that using strata managers as a whipping tool, because you the guys do have that yardstick that can say, here's a breach of bylaw, so the building manager can lean on that and use that incorrectly. So I appreciate what you're saying here. It's solid. And one thing I'd like to close on, and I'm really passionate about, is stress. We all get stressed. We all have challenging weeks. Sometimes they turn into months, and sometimes they turn into years, and it becomes chronic stress. And we can, get into all sorts of modalities that are called depression, and just ill thoughts, and getting sick, getting ill. And I'm really passionate about avoiding this sort of stuff, and talking to our staff, and making sure there's no bullying on site with owners and strata committees, with my staff, protect them fiercely. I'm just wondering, I don't know if you've got a team at the moment, but just even for yourself, what do you do on a Friday to make sure you clock off and you are with your family and your child, and hanging out with them and being present with them? But also, what have you seen? Obviously, you've been in the industry a very long time. How do you help people clock off on a Friday? How do you ensure people are they're decompressing over the weekend, they're coming back on a Monday refreshed and ready to rock and roll for the week ahead?
I mean, everyone's got their own way of releasing the valve, so to speak. For me, I think the best thing that we can remind ourselves, I don't remember the exact quote, but I think it was Marcus Aurelius that talked about how, he would wake up in the morning and he would say to himself, today I will meet ungrateful, spiteful, difficult, argumentative, challenging people. And it's true. I mean, that is simply the way of the world. It was back then. He was a Roman emperor from long way away, a long time ago, I should say. And it's no different today. The reality is that you will come across these sorts of people in your day to day. Now, how you respond to that is entirely up to you. Whether you choose to be bogged down by that, whether you choose to let that eat you up, is a matter for you. And for me, it's how do I navigate my day in such a way that I don't allow those challenging, difficult, ungrateful people to get me down. To use another analogy, there are about 1 billion drivers in the world, 1 billion people that can drive a car. And if you go out on the road and you think that every single person is going to be a great driver, you are going to be so upset because there are plenty of bad drivers on the road, and it simply is the way of the world. That there would not be a world without it. So the sooner you can accept that, and in the example of driving, you want to drive carefully, because one of the things I learned when I was getting my motorbike license was, defensive driving is to protect you from the bad drivers that ultimately, if they veer into you, you're the one that's dead. So it's how do you sort of guard yourself against the challenging people, the difficult people, the ungrateful people. And it's to remind yourself that, look, it is what it is. I don't have to let that eat me up inside. That's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do. And I say that genuinely, that, I myself still to this day have those challenging days, and it's not always just a case of disregarding hurtful comments and things like that. But if you can at least start your day like that, then at least you'll be prepared for it, and hopefully end your day and leave that behind you, and to then be able to focus on the good in the day, the people that did say thank you, the small acts of kindness, the person that you helped out, and maybe they didn't say it, but that they appreciated it. That's where the magic happens.
Mate, Tim, what an absolute pleasure. Stoicism right into your eardrums, and you have no idea how I'm excited about someone coming on and really understanding that stoicism can shift your mindset, can shift the way you see the world. And something you said earlier was about the only thing that we have any control over really is how we respond in every moment. And that's what you're saying there is set your expectations low but also see the gratitude in the small things that you know about and respond accordingly, that you have control in your response. And this is the reason why stoicism is relevant today. It's not obsolete because it's still relevant today because it works. And I love that you're bringing this up, and this is perfect. This is an understanding of how the world works. And Marcus Aurelius never got on a pedestal and talked about these things. My understanding of Marcus Aurelius is that he diarized them for himself. There's just a journal that came to the surface eventually and was found and published. And so these words weren't even of someone who was trying to get the words out, but spoke to himself about them. And that's what I love, that you've got this in-depth philosophy that now you get to apply not only for yourself, but in the business, which is now serving a community, a large community, and making a difference in the industry, in the strata industry. And so thank you for being a deep thinker. Thank you for taking a risk on yourself and being someone that's passionate about the industry. And we just need more people like you, Tim. So congratulations, mate. Like, well done. And thank you for coming on the Strata on the show, on the Strata Room, and just really gloves off approach. And I've just really enjoyed this conversation. And I'm going to reach out to you and grab a coffee with you, man. I need to come out and see you.
Absolutely, Dino. Thank you so much for the kind words, and it's been really great sitting down and talking with you today. And your platform here is a really great one. I really, really appreciate the opportunity to speak to an audience through you. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Thank you so much. We'll speak soon.
Absolutely.